Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I have great news for you. I mostly dodged the pepper spray down on the field, so I know that was probably everyone's top priority, the top topic that everyone would talk about on the postgame show. Don't worry, I'm fine. You can go about living your lives happily and concern-free.
So I came upstairs when Will Howard threw the incompletion. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to come up here and get set. Mm-hmm. And then eventually they turned the TV on in here, and there's this melee going on and just wrapping up in the middle of the field. So I had no idea what was going on down there. And then you saw it a little bit on the television, and you saw like players getting up, and didn't know what was going on down there. And then we had one of the lantern photographers come up and had she had gotten pepper sprayed and was like there was some concern there, and it was like a real situation down there.
Oh yeah, it was a real situation. There were a couple of Ohio State staffers I saw who, I know CJ Barnett looked like he had gotten a face full of pepper spray. If you've ever been pepper sprayed, it is not fun. I got pepper sprayed as a lantern reporter covering a late night riot in the spring of 2000, I believe. It is not a lot of fun. You feel like you can't breathe. Your eyes are burning. So yeah, it is not a lot of fun. My view of the post-game melee was I was on the side shooting, over towards the band, shooting the Carmen, Ohio. She's shooting photos of the guys doing Carmen, Ohio, and saw a flag coming and just took off running. I was like, I know what this is going to be. And you just sort of saw this like ripple across the Ohio State players, who then turned and, recognized it and turned and ran. And there's a lot of pushing and shoving and a lot of grabbing and a lot of name calling and that kind of stuff. It was not, from what I saw, the Ned FIU Miami fight where it was swinging helmets and swinging crutches, from what I saw.
Because there were a couple of people that came up afterwards and said that was a legit fight.
Oh, it was a legit fight.
I do wonder if there will be any suspensions for whatever game comes next, because there will be a review of all of this.
There will be. It was not the, it was an ugly scene, but it was not a, you are worried someone is going to get killed kind of fight. Like sometimes you see, who was it? Was it Myles Garrett? Someone swung a helmet at someone at one point in the NFL. Like, that's one thing. It was a fight, and it was pushing and shoving. And, Jack Sawyer, one of the Michigan players was running with the flag, and Jack Sawyer grabbed the flag and threw it. And, but to me, I don't look at that as, oh boy, everyone needs to be suspended. Everyone, and it will shock you to learn, Tony, that in the Michigan press conference, Ohio State 100% instigated it. Michigan had no blame, role whatsoever in the thing. And
Ryan Day was asked about it. He's like, well, when you're trying to plant a flag, this is a prideful group of guys, and so they didn't want to let that happen. It's not something I don't think Ryan Day is like, go out there and get it. It's like, these are prideful guys. And then I did see, I think, Kalel Mullings on the TV post-game interview talking about it. It's like he said it's unfortunate, but Ohio State needs to learn to lose.
Yeah, and that was a question that got asked about a couple people in the Michigan post-game press conference, losing with dignity or losing with class, and no one really wanted to answer that. It's, and we have a clip from Davis Warren talking about it, and we'll play that a little later. But it's, he basically said, like, yeah, you wanted to defend your field, you had 3 hours to do that, you didn't do it, so we're going to win, we're going to plant our flag. It was just kind of very matter of fact. So we'll let you hear the whole thing from him a little later on. But
it's turf. You can't plant it.
It's hard to disagree with that. Like, you win, you have a chance to win. You're favored by 3 touchdowns. I mean, this is an Ohio State Michigan game you and I have seen before. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was 1 point off of the 1996 game, and it was pretty much the 1996 game where it was like, well, you just can't give up the one play, and it was like, well, you gave up a interception in in your own red zone that gives Michigan their only touchdown of the game, and defense plays great all game, and the offense they're kicking field goals, they're They're trying to kick field goals. They're settling for field goals. How about that? You're sort of wondering what game offensive coordinator Joe Hollis and or offensive coordinator Chip Kelly are watching, because the play calling bore no resemblance to what was actually happening on the field for long stretches, it felt like.
Just the we must run the ball. We talked about that all week long. You don't need to run the ball. You just need to move the ball. This infatuation with running the ball, I think it was a self-fulfilling prophecy and did them in. But I mean, you can look all over the place for numbers of why you lost. 2 of 5 in the red zone. When I first got on, I jumped on with Mark and I said, to me, this comes down to 4 special teams plays. The 2 missed field goals. There was a punt return that Caleb Downs did not field, and it cost him 30 yards.
Well, and as soon as the Travion Henderson kickoff at the beginning of the third quarter, again, you start inside your own 10-yard line, and they were terrified to throw the ball when they were backed up. Absolutely terrified. And
they threw an interception backed up.
They did, but they kept kicking field goals. So obviously, one failure should not dissuade anyone from continuing on that path. Not only did they kick field goals, they settled for a field goal. They ran a draw play on 3rd and 10. Like, boy, that was Tony. Life is full of choices.
Well, and this one, I was talking to Marcus Hartman, and we were like, Ohio State gets the ball out of the half. If they score a touchdown, that's probably all they need.
Yeah.
And
well,
that just started right off the gate.
Yeah, that could have turned it from the 1996 Ohio State-Michigan game to the 2007 Ohio State-Michigan game, where Michigan can't do anything on offense, and all you have to do is get a lead, and they're completely hopeless. Davis Warren finished the game 9 for 16 for 62 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. I mean, they could do nothing, and they had 2 runs of any consequence all game. It was the Alex Orji run that was 29 yards. I don't know why we didn't see more Alex Orji. It was a day full of choices by both coaching staffs. But then you had the one. We talked about this on the pregame show. You can't have the 3-yard gain that turns into a 30-yard gain, and there was the one play where they missed a tackle on Kalum Mullins, and that was it. That was all it took to set up that game-winning field goal.
Yep. When you're a 0-score game, when it's a tie game in the fourth quarter, it just takes that one, and they got it. And then Michigan was able to milk the clock and just run it down. But their first 2 scoring drives, Tom, would you care to look at those?
2 plays, 2 yards, 4 plays, 3 yards. Michigan had 1 drive where they scored points that went longer than 3 yards. This was the Jim Knowles masterpiece. Jim Knowles was the Ohio State defense was fantastic. Jack Sawyer played the game of his life. I mean, the Ohio State defense was so good all game long. Jim Knowles' defense can't force punts. They can't force turnovers in the second half. Punt, interception, field goal after they got strung out there again, because the offense couldn't do anything. And then that was it.
But Tom, no punt in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, because
I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, because they forced an interception in the fourth quarter. Yeah,
but it's just, and as Ryan Day said, they did eventually just kind of wear down. 19 rushes, 77 yards in the fourth quarter, and 30 of that on the Kalum Mullins. I compare that to what Ohio State did in the fourth quarter, and it's insane that Ohio State managed 9 yards rushing, 1 yard passing in the fourth quarter. And they got backed up, but they were terrified when they were down there.
Right. Well, it was just a game where they very clearly didn't feel comfortable with Will Howard throwing the ball for whatever reason. I was not in here, so I'm sure this got asked.
Yeah.
You had a drive where you were throwing the ball and running tempo, and you went boom, 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 9 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. And then you didn't really go back to that at any point. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify things, Tony, but it feels like if something's working, you might want to give it a second shot.
Well, and Dave said they did mix up some tempo, and it's like, but they didn't do that.
Right.
They never did that again.
Do the thing that works until they stop the thing that works.
No, that's not how it's going to work, and that's not how it worked. And so now you are in a situation where you can't even lick your wounds because you're bleeding too badly. Like you're just a pool of pus right now.
Ohio State should get down on their knees tonight and thank the Lord that it is a 12-team playoff and they get another chance, because they probably they probably fall out of the top 4 in a 4-team playoff. Now, you're still looking at a home game the weekend of December 20th and 21st. So, not all is lost, but you've now lost your opportunity to beat Michigan for the 4th year in a row. Barring 2 miracles involving Purdue and Maryland, you've lost your opportunity to play in Indianapolis for the 4th year in a row. So, my advice to Ryan Day would be to win the national championship, because otherwise you're 0 for 12 on your stated team goals over the 4-year span. And at that point, I heard you right before I hopped on, Ryan Day's not getting fired, but it's probably time for a conversation about maybe there might be mutually beneficial for everyone to just sort of take a step back and think about what they want to do in the future.
Because obviously he wants to leave with some sort of a Michigan win, but next year you've got to win there. It's going to be more difficult, and clearly Michigan doesn't have to have a great team to beat you. So now you're behind the 8 ball on that one. So it would not shock me, and I said this before, and we were talking about this with some other folks before things got started, that maybe everybody just needs a change of scenery. Yeah. Ryan Day more than Ohio State.
Well,
as much.
You go back to some of the stuff Ryan Day talked about earlier in the week about what a win would mean in this and how hard it's been on his family the last few years. Unless you win the national championship, it's not getting easier on your family this year. It may just be, Ryan Day's won a crap load of football games in Columbus, Ohio, and there is, this is the game you have to win. Everyone knows that. Everyone says that. This is a universally acknowledged truth. This is the game you have to win. You don't have to win every single one, but you got to win at least 2 out of 4, and if not 3 out of 4. And the fact that he was coming in off of, he was in some ways coming in a little like Kalen DeBoer after Nick Saban, where it's the standard is impossibly high, because the historical norm is not you win 16 out of 18 games. That's not the historical norm. But 15 out of 18, either way, whatever. That's not the historical norm. But that's what he was coming in on. So you're sort of set up where if you go 3-1, everyone's like, oh, why'd you lose to Michigan once? But you're now at the point where if you didn't win this one, when you're at home, when you have what is almost universally acknowledged as the most talented roster in America, and it's a down year for Michigan, and once again, you're at home.
Yeah.
And Michigan doesn't really have anything to play for. And Michigan is so incredibly limited on one side of the ball that it's all you have to do is score 17 points, and you're the offensive guru, and you've got your offensive guru calling plays. If you didn't do it this year, when is it going to happen exactly?
Yeah, and so now you just wonder what kind of mood there is for moving forward. We talked earlier in the week how when Ohio State lost to Florida and in Glendale, I was like, boy, this is it's going to take them 5 years to get out of this one. This is one that if you don't make some sort of a march through the playoffs, because we didn't even really we talked about what it would take to lose this game for Ohio State, what it would take for Michigan to win this, and I think we kind of nailed it.
It was all of the things we said.
And so now, what does it take for Ohio State to move past this? And you're going to need to win some playoff games, and a national championship would make all of this go away. But it still creates the pressure for next year. The streak is still going on, and you feel like if they were to, and this is pie in the sky at this point for Ohio State fans, you win it all, that gives Ryan Day an opportunity to leave without looking like he's leaving because it's just, I don't want to be here anymore, even though that's why you leave.
Yeah, I find it difficult to think that if you win the national championship, you would leave off of that. What are you leaving for?
Same reason you would have left if you lost.
Well, I understand that, but what job are you leaving for? If they lose in the semifinals, for example, and I don't know how the Patriots are doing this year. They have not been doing particularly well recently, right? So if the Patriots offensive coordinator position comes open, do you just kind of pull a Jeff Hafley and go,
No, it's a head coaching job.
It's a head. Where's he getting a head coaching job?
Well, and there are Bears, the Cowboys. They haven't fired him yet, but that's what you're talking about. Or does he stick in college? He can get a head coaching job in college. We know that.
Yeah, but where does he want to coach? Like, he doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't want to leave and go coach Boston College, which is where he was before. Where is he going? He's
USC, Oklahoma. USC's not going anywhere at this point.
Yeah.
They can't afford to. And a lot of these schools right now can't afford to fire.
A lot of these
coaches.
Schools are not in the market. Like, there's very little turnover projected for this year. So
I'll say this: I do expect him back.
Yeah, I think he's back next year. I think there's probably internal conversations. Not that they're going to fire him, but just that, is it better for him and his family to go do something else? I don't know what something else is, but Chip Kelly left a head coaching job for an offensive coordinator position, and I think that was kind of a sort of similar situation where it was like he didn't like some of the stuff going on there, but also it was kind of getting a little stale and not really working. So I don't know, and I don't know that Ryan Day knows right now.
Yeah, I feel like if he were to leave, there would be such a great load off of them, that because this is just grown and kind of metastasized and become something that John Cooper can relate to. And then now I can entertain that conversation, because before it's just like people jumping the gun, and now they're saying, well, we were right. It's like, this was a game that you should not lose, that you did lose. And that was the John Cooper era.
Yeah.
Losing games that they've lost the last 3 years, they were favored. Yeah. Michigan was favored in some of those. Ohio State was favored in some of those. Rivalry games happened. This one, you're favored by almost 3 touchdowns. This is a head scratcher and a mental game right now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're allowed to lose to very good teams. You're allowed to lose close games. Someone has to lose every close game. Go back to the end of the Oregon game. We're having a very different conversation at the end of the Oregon game. It's a loss, but it's a 1-point loss on the road against one of the best teams in the country. And I was willing to overlook that completely. I was willing to just kind of say, yeah, absolutely. Like, it was a great game. Someone had to lose that game. This was just, the offensive game plan was just not in the face was the offensive game plan today. Just curl up in a ball and don't get hit. It was Buster Bluth, what do you do if someone wants to fight you? Just tuck into a ball and just, we have to prove how tough we are. We have to show that we can run the ball. Sherrone Moore said after the game, if you're tough, you don't have to talk about being tough. We don't talk about toughness. It's just, that's what we do. The culture is smash. And Tony, for the 20 year in a row, the team that ran the ball more won the game. 42 carries, 172 yards, 4.1 yards per carry for Michigan, 26 carries, 77 yards, 3 yards per carry for Ohio State. We said all they have to do is they have to run for 3.5, 4 yards a carry. And if they did, they probably would have won the game. It wouldn't have taken very much to pick up more, to get to the point where, you've gone from losing the game to winning the game. This is one that I'm sure you go through the Ryan Day losses, all of them, pretty much all of them. You can look and go, boy, if only this, if only Will Howard hadn't slid a second, or had slid a second earlier, or Jeremiah Smith wasn't called for offensive pass interference, or if Marvin Harrison doesn't get targeted, or if Georgia gets called for targeting Marvin Harrison, or if they are a little more aggressive on that last drive and set up a shorter field goal, or if I'm trying to think other losses, or if they execute the fake punt against Michigan in 2022, or there's just so many. You can go back after all these losses and do the what if thing, and there's more what if here, but it's just, this is not one where you can kind of look and go, hey, this was a talent equated game, and someone had a very close game, and someone had to lose. This was not a talent equated game. Ohio State's a far better team than Michigan. Ohio State handed this game to Michigan in a lot of ways just by refusing to do the stuff that you have. Jeremiah Smith.
Yep.
How many times did Jeremiah Smith was targeted for 7 passes, 5 of them completed, and virtually nothing downfield. Was it
nothing.
What's the longest pass they complete?
And they did interfere with him twice in the end zone.
Yes,
but then didn't go back at it.
Right. So you give him 7 catches.
This is great defense doing
7
that.
catches for 65 yards and a touchdown, if you include the. And so 7 catches for 65 yards. That's like what, 8 and 9? No, it's 9 yards per play. 9 yards per play, even if so 7. We'll say 7 yards per play if you include the targets and you include the pass interferences. You ran for 3. Like, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but on the last drive, did they throw to Jeremiah Smith at all on the last drive? I don't remember them throwing.
I don't
to
think
him.
so.
No.
They threw to G. Scott, Travion Henderson, incompletion.
I think you have to, like, checking down to Travion Henderson on 2nd down for 1 yard was like, that's not like that doesn't solve the problem.
No. And speaking of Henderson, 10 carries, 21 yards, long rush of 5 yards on the day. And yet they felt the need to continue to try.
Well, and Quinshon Judkins had the 17-yard run in the 3rd quarter, and I turned to the guy next to me and I said, coaching youth hockey, like mites, like 8U kids. Everyone wants to try and do the wraparound goal where you've got the puck behind the net and you just kind of sneak it around the net and you stuff it in on the post before the goalie gets to the post. It never works. You do it, you just pound the puck into the goalie's pads or into the post, all that kind of stuff. And then it works one time. And you tell the kids it doesn't work. And then it works one time, and then they keep doing it, and they want to keep doing it. That was a 17-yard Quinshon Judkins. It's like, see, we can run the ball. It's like, okay, that was once.
Yeah.
Like, that. May I present you a sample size of the entire rest of the game?
Yeah, and their 2 best runs were the speed option and the 4th down play. And we never saw the speed option again.
Well, you're not running the ball between the tackles, because go back and listen to our shows all week. What did we say they weren't going to be able to do?
Right.
Run the ball between tackles. Like, what? I do not understand the game plan. Like, this was screamingly obvious. This is one of the best defensive tackle duos in the country, and you've got. I thought the guards and offensive line on the whole did fine. It wasn't. They didn't get whooped. Will Howard didn't get sacked a million times, but it was put your players in a position to succeed. If you can run the ball outside a little bit. Like, if you want to run the ball, by all means, like, you don't have to run up the A gap every time. Like, do something else. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So Judkins had 27 yards on 2 carries. The 4th down one was a 10-yarder, and other than that, like, he didn't do anything. 10 carries for basically the same 20-some yards that Henderson had outside of those 2 carries.
I'm looking at Michigan's receiving stats.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Michigan's leading receiver was Peyton O'Leary, who had 1 catch for 18 yards, followed by Tyler Morris, who had 1 catch for 14 yards. Their leading receiver in terms of catches was Marlon Klein, who had 3 catches for 13 yards.
You didn't have Colston Loveland. You didn't have Will Johnson. And you still came.
And they lost Donovan Edwards partway through the game.
So this was, I think we could say this is Ryan Day's first bad loss as Ohio State's head coach. But it's a bad loss.
This is a loss where you lose the fan base.
Yeah,
I think
you were down on the field. I was, as soon as Will Howard threw the incompletion, I started to head up to the tunnel, and all I hear is just fans in South Stands throwing stuff down on the bleachers. And then I get up here, and some other people are coming up here, and I guess the fans were yelling at the coaches' wives, and it was getting pretty nasty that way.
Someone was screaming at Ross Bjork.
Yeah,
Ross, you got to make changes. It's time for changes. I heard that. Yeah.
So it was not a happy. Not even. It's like you can't even. It wasn't a happy fan base. This was. It was anger. It was rage. Like we're talking with somebody over here before. Maybe it was Dave Briggs from the Blade about the 2015 Michigan State loss. Like, that was anger. That was hurt. That was disbelief. This is rage, anger. This is just everybody seeing red.
Well, this is a team that was, it was, okay, well, what do you need to succeed? Okay, you need to have a new quarterback. Okay, done. You need to have another running back. Okay, done. You need to have the most talented freshman wide receiver in the history, perhaps, of college football. Done. You need to have a new center. Okay, you got that. Now, he got hurt, but you need to have you got to have another corner. Okay, they did that last year. Okay, you need maybe the most talented safety in the country. Okay, got it, done. You got everything. You got everything you wanted. You probably should have had a kicker on your wish list, but you got everything you asked for.
And Jaden Fielding, say what you want. He's a former walk-on, current walk-on.
Right.
Like that's not what you should be dealing with.
You should have, like, this is like a baseball team building a bullpen. Like, you should go into camp with, here are multiple good options. And it's like the kicking options are Jaden Fielding, a former walk-on. They brought in a transfer from Kent State. They brought in, there's another walk-on there. I think those are the top 3 kickers. And
meanwhile, Michigan goes to...
Yeah, they go to Arkansas State and get one of the best kickers, if not the best kicker in the nation. Did it matter today? I would argue yes.
Yep, sure did.
And that's not... Look, leave Jaden Fielding alone. Like, this is not on Jaden Fielding. This is on Ryan Day, and this is on Chip Kelly. Period, full stop. That's it. Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. Direct your anger towards New Hampshire. Leave everyone in Ohio alone. It's Jim Knowles had a dynamite game. Jim Knowles just about saved their bacon. He did everything he could to save their bacon, and they just refused to be saved.
Because even if you have throw those 2 field goals in there, you still only scored 16 points in this game.
Yeah,
you got to do better than that.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a team that, did Will Howard make a couple mistakes? Sure. But if you don't trust Will Howard to throw the ball, like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
You very obviously could not run the ball. So you
got to do something.
You have to do something. You can't just it felt like they were playing for, well, just wait for Michigan to make the big mistake. And then Michigan did make the big mistake. They got the ball in Ohio State, in Michigan territory, and they didn't score any points off of it.
Yeah, 1st and 10 from the 16 after the Caleb Downs interception.
Yeah.
Do we want to bang out these super chats?
Yeah, let's hit a couple super chats. Okay.
I'll punch the ones.
Sure. Yeah. So sure. Go ahead.
Check doesn't go up
too
bad.
Okay. Mr. Jonathan West says,
this is his best one.
No press conference necessary. Fire Ryan Day right now. I mean, I don't know what Ryan Day's buyout is, but it's going to be hefty. It's probably, off the top of my head, it's probably $60 million.
I would say 40 to 60 million.
I mean,
that's why
you could do that, but you also have $20 million worth of payroll under the whatchamacallit case that's going in this year. The House settlement. Yep. So you've got that coming in. You are trying to support other sports. You're trying to support you have buildings to finance. You have all this kind of stuff. There is not an unlimited money tree, and there is not someone with $60 million to, just hand you. I mean, could Les Wexner theoretically write a $60 million check? I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I don't think that's realistic, and I don't know that that's the way this should get settled.
Wouldn't you rather have that $60 million go to players?
Well, go to players, or go if Ryan Day does decide to go do something else. Like, then you can bring in, who are you going to bring in?
I mean, that's another question. And Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Luke Fickell has coached himself out of the conversation. Mike Vrabel is still in the NFL, and I have no indication that he's interested in coming to Columbus. Like, I've seen people talk about Dan Lanning. Like, does Dan Lanning have any ties to Ohio? Does Dan Lanning have any? Would Dan Lanning not drive Ohio State fans extremely insane as well? Dan Lanning's lost 3 straight games to Washington. We'll see what they do against Washington later tonight. But, yeah, Dan Lanning is going to have his own issues. And Dan Lanning's got Phil Knight at Oregon. Like, I don't know that –
For a while.
For a while, yeah, but you've got Phil Knight at Oregon for a while. So, is there I don't think he has a reason to leave. I think he's gotten a lot of what he wants there.
I mean, look at the way they're recruiting.
Yeah,
They're taking Ohio State's recruits basically.
Yeah. I mean,
and they may not be done.
Yeah, you're not getting Kirby Smart. You're not getting Steve Sarkisian. You're not getting. You want Brian Kelly? Brian Kelly's available.
Lane Kiffin, Mike Norvell, Dan Mullen.
No. I said New Hampshire.
Was Tulane's coach or Memphis's coach?
Willie Fritz. No, Willie Fritz is at Houston now.
Yeah. So it's like you're going to have to go get somebody.
Yeah, there's not a home run hire out there, and that's the thing. It's like there's a little bit of, and then what that comes with all of these conversations, because it's like but I'm mad now.
Well,
it's
that's
like,
the
well,
answer.
that's, but I'm mad now is not a good reason to do something.
You say, and then what? And the answer is, I don't care.
Right. Yeah. Anything has to be better. It's like, does it? Because there's a lot of ways that it's not necessarily better. Because let's reiterate this point. The season's not over. They are still going to be in the college football playoff. We'll see if they're the 5 seed or the 6 seed or the 7 seed or the 8 seed. I mean,
9.
Well, bad losses don't seem to hurt as much. If you have 2 good wins against Penn State and Indiana, I think those might kind of backstop you, where unless Penn State or Indiana wins the Big Ten, you're probably ahead of both of those teams because you beat both of those teams, beat Indiana by a bunch, beat Penn State on the road. The committee has tended to sort of treat, your head-to-head as if there's not the Oregon loss, I think the committee is basically saying almost doesn't count as a loss. So I don't think they're dropping to 8 or something like that. But, everyone's looked at the 5 seed and drooling over the 5 seed. You might have played yourself into the 6 seed or the 7 seed now, and that's a little bit of a harder path.
And that's something we have really not looked at all. We've just been focused on the 1 and the 5. Super chat from Mike Farino. Legitimately, don't even let Ryan Day get to the podium. Fire him in the locker room now. Ross Bjork is always up here watching the press conference and the post game. So he was up here and sticking it all in. Didn't seem like he was in the mood to fire anybody at this point. Right now, you're just too stunned to like when you're like that. When you're the AD, one, you're stunned, you're disappointed, you're angry, you're feeling for the athletes who you've come to know, and the rage from the fan base. I don't think is something that he is feeling right now. I would not want to look at his phone.
I would just, you've got to, he's going to have to be on his phone to text recruits and stuff, but like take your wife's phone, take your son's phone, take your, just.
I just meant like Ross Bjork's phone with the boosters.
Ross Bjork. No, I wouldn't necessarily want his, he's got people angry. He's not the one who gave Ryan Day a contract extension. So it's, this is not Ross Bjork's situation really. It has become Ryan Dawson's. Looked like they left some doubts. And that's the thing. This was how they lost. You go back and watch the Friday show that Tony and I did that was like, how would Michigan win the game? And it was just, watch us predict the future. It was, Ohio State can run the ball. Ohio State gets a little bit of pass rush pressure, but we didn't predict them turtling like that on offense. But you miss a tackle here and there, and that turns a short gain into a long gain. It took one of those. You turn the ball over a couple times, and that's it. Like you handed Michigan 10 points on a total of 5 yards of offense. Like that's it. And the defense played fantastic all game. The special teams made a couple crippling mistakes, which really set the offense up for some big in terrible field position, which then set the offense up to call the really turtling play calls and then set the offense up to fail. And eventually the defense, if you put the defense out on the field for the entire second half, eventually they get tired.
Yeah.
And that's not conditioning. That's not, Jim Knowles can't seal the deal. That's you left the offense out on the field or the defense out on the field for way too long in the second half. The defense gave up a 15-play, 77-yard drive, 9-10 off the clock, gave up 0 points. And then they gave up immediately after that. They went back out on the field a minute and 35 seconds later, after 15 plays and 77 yards, and they gave up an 11-play, 57-yard drive, 5:28. Again, 3 points. That's it. Really, the defense gave up 3 points all game. The rest of it's on the offense.
Yeah, you know how we talked before the game about, for one, we did say if Will Howard gets this win, then he establishes himself in Buckeye lore, and he's a fan favorite. He was a fan favorite, and then this happened, and I'm already seeing just the kind of feedback that you would expect.
Yeah.
But this is there are 2 interceptions in the game. Nobody was hurting more than him after the game. Not that makes anybody feel better about it. Super chat from Mr. Jonathan West. Save us, Urban. You're our only hope.
You want Urban Meyer? I don't think Urban Meyer would do great in the NIL era.
There's a reason Nick Saban left, and it's not just because he's getting old.
Yeah, Urban was kind of losing his magic a little bit at the end of his tenure. Everyone is now looking back at that, and all the people who then said, "I don't care if you beat Michigan, why aren't you winning the national championship?" Are now saying, "Well, he beat Michigan." It's like, well, you used to not care about that.
Same thing with Jim Tressel.
Yeah, yep. Mike Ferguson says, "I will take the pepper spray over having to watch that game again."
Yeah, that's going to be one where does anybody even want the rewatch show?
Well, we have an audience of Michigan fans, so.
Does anybody that we care about?
Still Kid says, is Ryan Day our version of James Franklin? Seems to play not to lose instead of playing to win. Howard made mistakes, but you have to allow him the chance to put the ball in the air. Ryan Day did screw up the clock management at the end of the game. You call your timeouts before the 2-minute warning. That's a 2-minute timeout. Sorry, put $1 in the jar. You call your timeouts before the 2-minute timeout, not after. You don't let them run 25 seconds off the clock. So he didn't do that, and that ended up setting them up with, that ended up, they didn't have a lot of time, which that might only have saved you.
But there's also like a 10-second runoff for some reason.
Michigan player lost a helmet, is what I was told. So, but then Michigan called a timeout, which then negated the 10-second runoff somehow. It was
they put like 129 back on the clock,
and then they wound it from 25 seconds.
They would have gotten the ball back with 55 seconds. Not that it matters, but then they ended up losing 10 seconds in there. It was just bizarre. I couldn't hear the refs quite well enough.
Mike Ferguson says, legend has it OSU is still trying to run it inside.
That's not a legend. That's a horror story. That's one that you don't tell the children at night. So they'll have nightmares. There's going to be some nightmares after this one.
And it sounded like the house was saying, "Good at the end of the game.
Get outside. Get outside. And that's what it was trying to say. And it's like, no. We're going to go check the basement.
Yeah.
And they found out that there was an axe murderer down there. Yeah. 2 of them.
I see people in the comments saying that Ohio State's just a regular program. Ohio State's still the most talented roster potentially in the country, if not the most talented, one of the most talented, and you're still in position to potentially win the national championship. Think about how mad you were after the 2022 Michigan loss. And then if, there's a couple ifs at the end of the 2022 Peach Bowl, where if Marvin Harrison doesn't get hurt, if Georgia gets called for targeting on that play, if Ryan Day's a little more aggressive to set up a shorter field goal, Ohio State potentially or likely wins that game, and then you're playing TCU for the national championship. And I don't know if it was 65, if it would be 65-7, but even if it's 31-17, congratulations, you've won a national championship, and the narrative around you isn't completely different. Now, some of the stuff in that game was a lot of the stuff that we saw today. You get a little pucker. You get a little pucker in these games from Ryan Day, and it gets, it's real easy to be aggressive and going for it against Western Michigan and Northwestern and Rutgers and whoever else. Yeah. And then you're running a draw play to set up your field goal kicker who's already missed one kick. I don't know that that's the move there.
At some point we can maybe not today, but we will eventually talk about. So who is coming to Columbus in 3 weeks? Because Tennessee, Georgia, some of these programs that we talk about, wouldn't it be great to see? And then how do you think those programs are feeling about we got to play Ohio State? So I think there's still some concern from the rest of the nation about Ohio State. The rest of the nation has impacted it on Ohio State. But again, you got to wake up, you got to snap out of it. Because if you can lose to Michigan, and as we said before, if you can be in a 1-score game against Nebraska here, you can lose to Michigan. Now we know for sure they can lose to Michigan. And if you can lose to Michigan, you can lose to anybody that has a good defense and enough of a running game to do some damage. And the fact that there's no passing game and you still 77 yards rushing in the fourth quarter, you just wore down because your offense did nothing for you. Not going to get harp on the defense. They gave up 13 points and really one scoring drive. That was a legitimate drive.
The defense is 0% responsible for that game. I mean, 0% responsible. the defense played great. Jack Sawyer played great. He was all over the place. I'm looking. His stats don't reflect, I think, what I saw on the field. He was just constantly in there. Caleb Downs had that fourth down stop. I mean, Caleb Downs played a game of his life. Cody Simon, 9 tackles. Lathan Ransom, 9 tackles. I mean, they were like Arvell Reese, 7 tackles. It was such an incredible performance by the defense, and they did all the stuff that no one said they could do. They forced punts in the second half. They got 2 turnovers in the second half. They got put in an awful spot repeatedly. You said earlier, 3-yard drive and a 2-yard drive.
It's crazy.
That was 5 yards of offense for Michigan, and they got 10 points out of it in a game where they scored 13 points.
Yep.
I mean, 0% of that game is on the Ohio State defense. I don't think it's 100% on Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, but whatever percentage it is, it's it'll graduate you from high school, whatever percentage that was.
And we've got a question there about Jaden Fielding, and I'm trying to find.
Yeah, Mike wants to know how many field goals has Fielding now missed inside of the 40. Nope.
8 of 10 coming into the game.
Yeah,
So it's not like
he's missed a few. 8 of 10, you said, coming into the game. I think. Yeah, he's been. You sort of assume that a kicker at Ohio State is going to be more or less automatic because over the years it's kind of been that way. And Noah Ruggles, everyone remembers him now for the Georgia kick, but Noah Ruggles was a great kicker at Ohio State and made some really clutch field goals over his career. And Fielding has just been like a step below that. He hasn't been terrible. This is there was who was it? There was a team was it Indiana? It was Indiana that was like 4 for 9 on field goals in the season, something like that. And if you're 4 for 9 in field goals, you're terrible. That's terrible. If you're 8 for 10, right? 8 for 9
according to this.
Okay, 8 for 9, and then 1 for 3 today, so 9 for 12. 75% of your field goals isn't terrible, and he missed one in the 40s, and then I don't know what the misses were today. Again, part of Jaden Fielding is not a.
He missed from 38 and 34.
Okay, 38 and 34. That was
one of those was not a good miss.
Yeah, no, you should make those. Those are kicks that you should make. But once you watch him miss one, and he missed one against Michigan last year, and that was a long one against Michigan last year. But Ryan Day settled for a long field goal right before the half against Michigan, and they missed the field goal. And you have to kind of recognize, at some point, some learning must occur. Yeah. You have the kicker you have. You cannot pick someone up on the waiver wire, so you have the kicker you have. So you probably shouldn't run a draw and set up on 3rd and 10. You probably shouldn't run a draw to set up a guy who's already missed a 30-something yard field goal to kick another 30-something yard field goal.
Yeah. The super chat from Fort Wayne Buckeye. A little levity. Caleb Downs finally got that interception. Tony, just as Tom boldly predicted.
Tony sent me a text. It was supportive.
Yeah.
It was. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell this in a little bit of a parable, Tony. Over in the Michigan press conference, they were talking about. I don't remember what the acronym was. It was basically "forget it and move on" is how Sharon Moore described it. It was like FIMO or something like that. Forget it, move on. And I think it was Davis Warren who said, it's, F it and move on. Anyway, so why did I think about that when I thought about the text you sent me? I don't know. I did like that Sharon Moore gave you the PG version, and then I was like, well, is that what it really stands for? Because I don't think it really.
So I threw a quote from Will Howard up on Twitter and said we're going to regroup and go into the playoffs and make a run. And before all of this, he was talking about we don't care about the playoffs. We're not thinking about it right now, but the mentality is you're going to go in the playoffs and make a run. And that was quote tweeted with they're going to win the Natty and everyone will hate every minute of it.
I mean, this is still a team that can win the national championship. Because let me tell you, you look around the country and which teams are absolutely flawless.
Yeah.
I mean, Oregon hasn't lost, but Oregon looked like crap against Wisconsin a couple weeks ago. Georgia went to 8 overtimes against Georgia Tech last night. I mean, Texas has not beaten anyone. We'll see what Texas looks like against Texas A&M on Saturday night. But so far, they don't have any, great, amazing wins. So you look at the rest of the nation, and it's like, well, Ohio State's not going to win a national championship. Obviously, it's like, okay, well, who is? It's like, well, I mean, Oregon's probably the favorite at this point, but is Oregon unbeatable? I don't think Oregon's unbeatable.
Super chat from Benjamin V. Hammer still coming. Ohio State loses again because of Stallions. Y'all are ridiculous, but enjoy the $10 because you used to be fair, good sports before Michigan turned the rivalry around.
Has anyone said Connor Stallion's name on this show?
I just said it right there.
Well, okay, there. So
you tricked me.
It did.
$10 to trick me.
Does anyone think? I saw someone on Twitter saying, "Oh, you're just going to be making excuses for like." Is anyone making excuses?
We picked Michigan last year.
Yeah, we picked Michigan to win the game that they won last year. This year, I did not expect Ryan Day and Chip Kelly to poop down their legs, but they did.
Yeah, no.
Wingman Ted said, did Chip kill the Bison package or whatever they called Curry as a fullback to help win the running game? Felt like they only ran into a wall on repeat. We haven't really seen that this year. They've run like Patrick Gerd as a fullback there.
They've run the T formation there and some things like that, but they haven't really used the extra linemen because they've got enough tight ends now to do it. I think maybe that's one of the reasons they've been short on tight ends in the past, where you're still trying to develop G. Scott or Sam Hart or Joe Royer. Like, you've got all these guys that came in as wide receivers, so it's not really what they do. But now you've got a bunch of tight ends that you can use, and they're doing it in different ways. Not successful.
Halftime score in Happy Valley: Penn State 31, Maryland 7. So I'm going to say you can go ahead and cancel the hotel reservation for Indianapolis for next week.
So are we looking?
And so now James Franklin has an opportunity to go in and James Franklin has an opportunity to go in and win a Big Ten championship against the number one team in the country and potentially be the number one team in the country. And all it took was Ohio State losing their game and Penn State just handling their business. I don't think they'll get there. I think they're probably going to lose to Oregon, but
it's interesting to me, leaving that Penn State game, walking out with the fan base, walking out with the Penn State fans in that game to get to the post-game media press conference, and just walking next to a guy just like you, and he was just completely devastated. And I'm like, hey, you still got the playoffs. He's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And now I was like, I wonder what he's saying right now.
Well,
and so that's
the thing.
Time heals all wounds unless you lose to Michigan.
Well, and I have a feeling that it's not going to be 73,000 people inside the Horseshoe on December 21st or whatever when they're playing.
Do you think it will be 105,000? It was 106,005. It was 105 plus against Indiana. Do you think it's a sellout type of?
It should be. I mean,
you're going to be seeing a pretty good opponent.
You're going to be seeing a pretty good opponent, probably an opponent you haven't seen before. Let's just look, and we'll obviously. Boy, is the college football playoff selection show going to be, the show on Tuesday night going to be fascinating this week?
Or you're probably going to end up with like an SMU, and it's going to be like,
I don't think.
Could get a Clemson.
So Clemson lost to South Carolina, so you could get a South Carolina. You could get a South Carolina. You could get an Ole Miss. I mean, you could get an Alabama. I mean, you telling me that Alabama coming up to Columbus in December. You're going to be like, no, I'm mad. Like the people who are saying that right now are the same people who were saying to us that, well, if the players get paid, I'm not going to watch college football anymore. Well, guess what? It's been an awesome college football season. So, it's if Alabama is coming to Columbus in December and you want to stomp your feet and be mad and not come to the game, like that's fine. But that's going to be a heck of a scene. That's going to be a heck of a game, and it's. Again, Ohio State has the opportunity to win the national championship this year. And if they do, you're mad now. You think you're never going to forgive Ryan Day for this. If they win the national championship, guess what? You're not going to be saying, yes, but they lost to Michigan and I'm still mad.
Yeah, the 2022 season, I think we all would agree, the Michigan loss wouldn't have mattered at all. Now, when you tally them all up, it's like, well, you still haven't done this, but it's like, yeah, here's my national championship ring. I can't hear you over the bling, but there's no bling right now, so it's very loud on the Michigan front.
Well, and Ohio State lost to a 6-win team in 2014. I mean, at home. So, that was earlier in the season, obviously, but this is the new reality of college football. And aren't you going to be happy in a few days when JT Tuimoloau last year, was it last year or 2 years ago after the Michigan loss? It must have been 2 years ago. They got a couple days after the Michigan loss in 2022 and were, mad and upset, and everyone was everyone was angry. And then JT Tuimoloau got up and talked to the team about hey, you still have the opportunity to win the national championship if some stuff falls right. You don't even need anything to fall right. You still have the opportunity to win the national championship. Ohio State's not dropping to 15 in the college football rankings. They're going to be 4, 5. I mean, you're going to in the rankings, which then moves you into probably like the 6-ish seed, something like that. It's if the ultimate goal is to win the national championship, that is still ahead of you. If they come out and they lose on December 21st, we're having a different conversation about everything. But right now, that's still ahead of you. Jordan Kapler, Super Chat. Am I crazy to be tired of the history book stuff? Win by rushing the ball. Really? How'd that work for you when it was obvious you could throw all over them? Prize comes before the fall, but where does stubbornness take you? It takes you to Columbus, Ohio on December 20th or December 21st.
It's interesting, and I've been saying it's kind of like self-fulfilling prophecy. Mm-hmm. Reminds me of a story my aunt once told me about how she had a family friend. And this family friend went to a psychic one time, and the psychic told him,
didn't see that coming.
No, the psychic told him, you're going to die from a fall. And the dude was sleeping in a chair on his porch, on the swing on his porch, and he fell out and he had a heart attack because he scared himself and died. And now that's just some old aunt's tale type of thing. Mm-hmm. But this is, hey, if you don't run the ball, you can't possibly win. And I can assure you can win the game by not running as well as the other team, especially if you're limiting the other team. It's that fourth quarter when you could do nothing and Michigan was able to just continue to get 3, 29. And so I just it is a very stubborn thing that when he kept talking about the team that runs the ball wins the game. Yes, we know that, but some of that is also leading, and running the clock out.
There's a correlation causation thing there, and if you're running the ball, you're probably even or ahead. Michigan was running the ball a bunch because they were trying to shorten the game, and Ohio State was running the ball because it felt like they were trying to prove a point. And I mean, okay, you have. It was the exact opposite of the 2020 Big Ten championship game. Because do you remember sitting we were looking in the stands or something, right? No, I was in the stands shooting photos. You were probably up in the press box, but I remember sitting there. If you go back and search, I have a tweet, and it's Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson are the two last people in this building to realize that they need to just give the ball to Trey Sermon, who's in the process of having one of the greatest games in Ohio State history, ended up breaking the single-game rushing record, and Justin Fields has a bad thumb, and they're like, no, we're going to throw it. And it's like, no, the guy who keeps running for 17 yards a carry, just do that until they stop it. And Ohio State, with the pass game, it was like, well, you got to run the ball on first down because you got to establish something. Okay, then they get stopped. So now it's 2nd and 9. Like, well, boy, you got to run. Let's try one more. Okay, now it's 3rd and 6. Okay, well, guess what? Now they know you have to throw. You're putting yourself in obvious situations. I don't know what the run-pass mix on first downs was before in the first 3 quarters, but it feels like it was probably like 70-30. And if you're throwing the ball for 8 yards of play, 7 yards of play, and you're running it for 3 yards of play, like this is a math problem. Like, just keep throwing, because it wasn't even like Michigan had incredible coverage all the time. There was Carnell Tate dropped an open one on 2nd and 5 at one point, and you had some Will Howard had some bad throws. Will Howard sailed some balls out of bounds and didn't give receivers a chance to catch it. You do wonder, was there any indication that was he banged up? He left the game with a shoulder. It looked on the scoreboard video like it was
Howard.
It
was a head injury. He said it was a head injury.
It was a head injury. Okay. Well, there was a lot of no, it was shoulder to shoulder. And it's like, how did he get a head injury if it was shoulder to shoulder?
Yeah.
So
and just looking real quick, third quarter they ran on first down every time, or at least to start the drives. But they threw some, and Will Howard ran on one of those. But yeah, he said, I felt good enough to come back in. I was watching him come out of the tent. They would not give him his helmet. And he was asking for the helmet. He's like, they wouldn't give it. He ran up and down the sideline to show them he's okay. He's like, give me the helmet. And they wouldn't. And then they finally did. And then he went back in the game.
Yeah. You wonder how close to 100% was he? Was he 100%? Was he not 100%? I mean, it felt like they didn't trust him.
Yeah.
And if you don't trust him, then you're playing left-handed, and it's like, how big is Will Howard at? I'm just going to pick a number here. Is Will Howard at 80% still better than Devin Brown at 100%? Maybe, I don't know. It certainly seems like they feel like that based on what they did. You didn't put Devin Brown back in there. It just, I struggle to think that if you don't trust your quarterback and you're not able to run the ball, like you've got to have someone that you can trust that you can put in there. Ryan Day is the quarterback guru. Certainly, you must have someone on your team that you trust to throw the ball to this, this incredible lineup of wide receivers.
But then they still marched down the field in a 2-minute drill after that in the second quarter.
They did, and then they didn't go back to it, which is bizarre. Are we caught up on super chats?
Okay.
Do we have the video of the Michigan postgame? Is that in there and ready to go? I sent it to you and our friend in Florida. Okay. Yes. Is it ready to punch up?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a little bit from the Michigan postgame. The two guys up there are Makari Page, the defensive back, and Davis Warren, the quarterback. The first question is to Davis Warren, and it was just sort of about Michigan's identity and the whole smash thing. And just what I want you to listen for, really, it's a couple minutes. The last quote, it was really kind of about the flag planting thing, and it is about as big of a dagger as you can possibly deliver.
I think, we talk about it. We talk about what type of team we want to be, what type of team we want to be known as. And, Coach Moore talks about it, that smash mentality, and that's discipline and tough and doing your job, not doing too much, not trying to do anything outside of what you know how to do, and just operating to the best of your ability. And, I'm just really proud of this whole group. I think they did that today. They showed toughness. Everyone that was out there showed toughness, and that's what these games came down to, and showed in the final score.
Gentlemen, especially on defense, you've knocked it around the quarterback and also stuff in the running game. You feel that was?
I think as a defense, as a team, honestly, we are tougher than them. I feel like, that's how I feel. Yeah.
Gentlemen, back right.
Was there a certain just kind of moment in the game where you guys felt that confidence that you came in playing with was overriding maybe OSU's ability to play, just as far as your talent level was concerned?
I mean, I thought on that offensive drive in the first half when we were going into the wind, and we drove right down the field, and I think we started our own, within our own 10-yard line, and went down there and, put ourselves in a good spot. And I think, just with that gave us a lot of confidence, picked up some third downs on that drive, and really got things moving. And I think that was, I can't speak for the defense, but I think that was big for the offense to get some stuff rolling.
I think before the game, we kind of gave us that, we knew they really didn't want to. They probably didn't want to, but they probably they tried to look tough. They tried to stare us down, but we knew in our head they really didn't want to come out here and play us.
For the issue in light of what happened after the game today, what do you think about the concept of losing gracefully?
I mean, I think we talked about it all week, being disciplined and letting our play on the field do the talking, and, through the echo of the whistle. I think, we had that one, on sportsmanlike offsetting one, which, those are going to happen in games like this. But I think as a unit, as a team, we did a great job of that. What happened at the end, I can't speak for that, but we're going to win in your house and we're going to plant the flag. Like, you should have done something about it.
We're going to win in your house and we're going to plant the flag. I mean, they checked both of those boxes. One thing that I heard that I had not thought about, but someone asked Sharon Moore a question about the fact that since Ryan Day's Hang 100 comments, Ohio State has played Michigan 4 times. They're 0-4, and they have yet to total 100 points in those 4 games.
Well, that's
yeah.
So Michigan was aware of those comments?
It turns out that Michigan was in fact aware of those comments. Yeah.
I bet that was there's a joyful press conference over there. I will just say that.
Yeah, and I'm a little. I didn't realize that Ohio State brought 3 guys out: Ryan Day, Will Howard, and Cody Simon, and that's it. Like, Chip Kelly's getting paid a bunch of money. Chip Kelly did not have a very good day. It would be real good to hear from Chip Kelly on what was the game plan exactly. And I mean, Ryan Day during the week looked confident, comfortable. Right? I mean, it was like Ryan Day was like, much like before Indiana. It was like he knew something that other people didn't know, and it's like, well, I mean, they must feel real good about their game plan.
They were counting their gold pants before they were forged.
Well, and like, what was the game plan that you felt so great about?
Even in here, he said we felt good about the plan. It just wasn't well executed, and that's not blaming the players or the whatever. I guess it's just like who is
when you're saying it wasn't well executed, who are you blaming?
Yeah, and I don't know if that was also the play calling, but and I don't know the exact statement of what he said, but you kind of stand by the plan because that's you felt it's going to work, and then they generally do well in the second half adjustments, but there were the getting away from the passing game. You could see that there was some concern from Ohio State and continuing to throw the ball. They weren't getting any depth. They weren't going downfield. There was nothing there. And so it's just interesting where it's like, well, they're playing soft, so you either have to take the underneath stuff or run it. And it's like, if they are playing soft, why can't you run it?
Yeah.
There were times where it was a 5 or 6 man box, and they still were only going to get 5 yards in there.
Well, and we talked all about they ran the speed option, and the speed option was one of the best games of the game, and then they didn't go back to it. And it's like, well, you don't have to run the ball between tackles. If you can't run the ball between tackles, do something else. Like, there's lots of other stuff you can do.
That was the third longest gain of the game, 17 yards.
And I look at this, and it's after the interception that Will Howard threw, the second one. The next possession, the defense gets the ball right back. Caleb Downs interception, and they go 4 plays, 0 yards, miss a field goal. Yeah. And then the next drive, the defense bends. Jack Sawyer makes an incredible play that was like this is the play that Jack Sawyer came back to make. He makes the play. This is going to be the play that everyone remembers that Jack Sawyer saved the Michigan game, and then they go 3 plays, 9 yards, and punt. And it's like at some point, and then the final drive, 4 plays, 1 yard, Downs. That's it. Like you had 2 turnovers that you got handed to you. One inside the red zone, you get the ball handed to you, and you had 11 plays for 10 yards and 0 points.
Day did kind of mention, we thought about going for it on 4th and 1 from their own 21. And it's like, you don't get it there, and clearly you set Michigan up. But also, I think in the back of his mind, he's thinking we would still have to go 79 yards, to score. And I don't know that they had much confidence they were going to be able to do that. Yeah, so it's like you give the ball back to Michigan, hoping that they will give it back to you in a better position.
Yeah, and they did. The defense did. The defense did get the ball back from Michigan, and but the offense just never did anything with it. That's, I think sometimes we have these games where it's, oh boy, where did things go wrong? What, who's to blame? Like, this is one where it's just like, this is not, you do not need to be a super football scheme guru to know where things went wrong for Ohio State today.
No, not at all. Are we, what else? Are we good? Are we?
Mike Ferguson says, for a time I thought OSU had rehired Tim Beck.
Oh, hey, come on now. Give that money back to Mike. We don't need to go there. That's boy. Yeah, this is a regression for Will Howard. That's for sure. And if you want to chalk that up to getting banged up, you can. Some of that play came before then. There's also good play after it. This was just not. This was his worst game as a Buckeye, and it's a terrible time for him to have that game.
Yep.
So,
all right.
All set?
I think we're good.
All right. If you have not yet hit the thumbs up, we would appreciate that. Before we go, if you're watching on YouTube, watching live right now, and of course, you can continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Join up, become a member. $4.99 for your first month. There is still, I promise you, a football season worth watching, worth fighting for. It's like, get in there. It's going to hurt for a little while, but the Buckeyes will play again, probably here, and we will be covering it like we do every other game here in a way. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later.